maybe they don't have to feed as constantly, but he sees this as an opportunity to start getting back on track with his meal plan, as it were. So he's like, oh, this guy could take me to more food. Bet, let's roll. So
you know where the Sizzler is? Welcome to Flan-Again, a Mike Flan-Again rewatch, brought to you by the Articulate Coven. For more information on the original Anne Rice fan podcast and community, visit articulatecoven.com and find more about this show at articulatecoven.com/Flan-Again. Welcome to Flan-Again, a Mike Flan-Again rewatch. We are the Articulate Coven. We're your hosts. I'm Joel.
I'm Ashley.
And we are the Articulate Coven. This is our spinoff podcast, and Ashley, it's a super weird feeling for me. We're about to put something to bed in Flan-Again land for the first time.
For the very first time, we're
so strange.
Wrapping up this tale of woe and holy shit.
So the vast majority of people who are watching and listening to this know that we do the Articulate Coven, where we talk about Anne Rice and her immortal universe. But I do know there's a small handful of you that have found this just for the Mike Flan-Again content. And yes. I want to let you know there's more coming for you as well. There'll probably be a couple of weeks between the release of this episode and the release of the first episode of Fall of the House of Usher, which you and your lovely husband, Brittany, are going to talk about, right?
Yeah. I've been doing my research. I've been doing I'm really, really excited. We got a fresh new copy of the complete works of Edgar Allan Poe, just for the occasion, a beautiful one from Barnes and Noble that's all leather bound and gorgeous. And we've been reading and having fun. Yeah, we're super excited to get started with that one. It's fucking crazy ride.
It is so crazy. I just watched it for the first time myself different. The other day.
It's so different from everything else.
In like 3 days. Yes. So that's one of the things that I wanted to mention. And I think that's a great thing that the Flan-Again podcast will differ from the Articulate Coven. The Articulate Coven, while we're going to talk about the Mayfair Witches, and we've covered the first book already there. We're going to talk about the second book, Lasher, right after the second season of the Mayfair Witches TV show comes out in January. We got a date for that, by the way, January 5th.
I did see a tweet today where someone was like, I saw the first episode of the second season, and I have to say, it was way better than I expected it to be, and it was a lot better than last season. So the people who were at the Comic-Con in person, and we know a few, there are some in our group that were there in person, but obviously there are other content creators that were there and that spoke to the Mayfair folks. Many of them reported some version of, hey, it seems like they heard some of the feedback, and they really do feel like they've nailed it in a way that they didn't before. That doesn't mean that it's going to be a perfect adaptation. That doesn't even mean that it's going to be a closer adaptation. No. But a more consistent storytelling, a more satisfying world, something of a little bit higher quality that you wouldn't mind mixing eventually with our vampires. That's what we're looking for, honestly. That's what we want. That's all we want. That's all we're asking for.
But this Flan-Again podcast is so exciting. I was literally looking the other day at the breadth of his work. I got a couple of his movies queued up to watch before Halloween because I'm on this scary movie kick right now.
Which ones are you going to watch?
So Hush, which I've never seen before. I'm going to watch that,
fantastic.
And I'm going to watch his Ouija movie.
Yeah, Ouija.
I always called it Ouija. How do you pronounce the damn thing?
I've always said Ouija.
Okay, there you go. Ouija board is what I called it as a kid.
We're Southern kids, so we're Southern in our witchcraft as well.
So he didn't make the first Ouija movie. He came in and made the second, which is a prequel. Yes, it's the second movie, but the origin of evil or something, I think, is the subtitle.
Yeah, it's fucked up. There's some real fucked up shit in it. It's creepy as hell.
Well, okay, and it's interesting because I saw I hadn't noticed any of these when we've been talking about Midnight Mass, which is what we're talking about here, by the way. Midnight Mass, Book 7, Revelation is going to be our topic for the main topic for tonight.
I just said, like I forgot what we were talking about, but I said, because the mirror from Oculus is actually in almost all of his movies, and some he sneaks it in places, and you can see it in one of the scenes. It's on the stage in the in the rec center where they're having their AA meeting. It's like
Nice.
covered with some fabric or some stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. So
There's a little Easter egg.
Honestly, I think I have not looked at his work with the same critical eye before until we got to this Watch Midnight Mass. So I probably missed a lot of those. I'm guessing they'll come up now, though, as we go through the rest of his work, because in Fall of the House of Usher in particular, I noticed at one point they were scrolling through Netflix and they land on Gerald's Game, which
Yes.
of course was his adaptation of
So
the novel by
fucking
Stephen
funny.
King.
Yes.
Which is a great adaptation too. So anyway, I'm going to watch a few of his movies for my little Halloween jaunt here, and I was just thinking about, like, man, he really does have. He's largely worked in the horror world, although the movie that just came out this year, what is it, The Life of Chuck? That's not a horror story, so we're going to see something very different there. Yeah,
Stephen King,
so
but it's
different, but not horror tinged. So anyway, I'm excited to like jump all around these different worlds and these different tones,
Yeah.
and the different themes, right? Like the things that he's talking about and poking at in Fall of House of Usher are basically not at all what he's talking about here, other than maybe substance abuse and alcoholism, I guess, a little bit. There is dementia, sort of, but it's not touched on in the same way as Midnight Mass.
It's certainly not approached with like the nuance and the like and the like heart, like really like everyone in Usher is kind of an asshole. So it's really just kind of about like sitting back and watching the shit show happen.
It's just a family full of Bev Keens.
Yes. As opposed to just being emotionally overwrought about the entire fuckery of someone thinking a vampire is an angel, you know, like, and just like dealing with fucking Riley lighting himself on fire in front of poor Aaron. You know, it's just a different journey.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing, while we're talking about the general arc of this Flan-Again podcast, for our patrons, I do want to let you know, coming up, you're going to get an opportunity to vote on a couple of movie nights. We'll do some Flan-Again movie episodes in between Fall of the House of Usher and our next series, and then we'll let you vote on what our next Flan-Again series will be, too, to cover. So all of that's coming up at articulatecoven.com/join. $2 or more a month gets access to all of our stuff early and ad-free, but at $5 or $10 a month, you get access to vote and suggest
pay for your
these
vote
topics.
here.
That's right. Well, and look, it's like the way that I think about it is you get a producer credit, right?
Yeah, it's a perk. It's a perk.
You're on the producing team at that point.
Love it.
So the other thing, though, that I was going to say about Mike Flan-Again, he had some news. We've actually got our first news here on the Flan-Again podcast.
And it's exciting, y'all.
It is exciting. Totally unexpected, honestly. Okay, so he's got this overall deal for several years with Amazon, and the primary reason it seemed like they brought him on was because they were getting the rights or were circling the rights for the Dark Tower.
Right.
He's going to be a part of that project. But very early on, after they signed the deal, he made it clear the Dark Tower is long term. He's working on that. That's going to be a big deal for a long while. So then they announced Life of Chuck. Then they announced he's working on The Exorcist, which I think is like not a remake, right? It's going to be a movie, but it's a side pull or something.
In the world in the same world as the original. I think that's the way I understand it. I could be completely wrong.
It read to me too.
But that's coming out in 2025.
Yes, that's his next year film, and then
Life of Chuck will be out in 2025 as well at some point. It's because it's sold.
I mean, I honestly thought it'd be out sooner than that.
I can't believe they're making us wait this long. I am pissed, but that's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't understand the movie business, and I know that one was financed kind of in an indie way, and then they sold it at the festivals. So, like, good on them.
Crazy that's something that he is doing that's based on a Stephen King fucking.
Yes. Nobody wanted to spend money on that.
You guys didn't want to invest in this.
Y'all had to wait until you saw it. I don't understand the movie business.
Like, here, do everything. Anything you want to do it. That's the real vibe.
That's the new news, is that he and Amazon have the rights to Carrie, and they're going to do an 8-episode TV series, one-off series of Carrie as a show. And that's coming soonish, it seems like. So again, probably after Exorcist, but definitely before the Dark Tower starts.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we should interpret, by the way, just because they're Stephen King, that this Carrie should have anything to do with this Dark Tower necessarily. Those aren't really connected properties, although everything King is somehow related. all got a little Ka involved. So we'll see.
We know how that goes. Yeah.
But it's exciting to know that there's like, there's new stuff from him that we're going to be covering soon on this show.
And it's more Stephen King, which I love. They are a little match made in heaven. No one has done Stephen King this well since Frank Darabont. And I didn't think anyone was ever going to do Stephen King as well as Darabont did. Darabont did Shawshank Redemption. He did the fucked up version of The Mist. Oh my God. Whoo! And he did Green Mile. So like he had those were amazing adaptations. And then I just didn't think anyone like Mike Flan-Again was ever going to come around and give me exactly what I want in life.
I mean, and it's so crazy, honestly, to have these two, and I'm gonna put Rollin on the same level here, just even though he's only done the one thing so far for us anyway. Rollin Jones, the showrunner over at Interview with the Vampire, that's the way we feel about him too. Like his understanding and appreciation for Anne Rice and his ability to not only like translate but to truly adapt. We've talked about this vaguely before, but like it's here. Honestly, this is the best Salem's Lot adaptation. They just didn't tie the rights to it, right?
Yeah.
But like we've watched a lot of others now. We're going to talk about the 2024 film next week on Articulate Coven. But anyway, I'm excited to see anything that he does from the mind of Stephen King. And again, as I'm currently reading or rereading, I should say, It. Oh. And I'm just blown away. I was trying to tell my 16-year-old yesterday, I was like, we forget. I mean, we know he's prolific and we know he's got a lot of hits, right? But like, he's an artist. Stephen King is a fabulous writer. Yeah, and he is. His ability to weave a narrative together from all different points of view and to bring us into an understanding of humanity at some very dark and terrible levels, but also some heightened, amazing levels. Anyway, I don't know if you guys know this. Stephen King's a really good writer. Yeah, so.
he's written a couple of books. You might be able to find them in your local bookstores. No, he's amazing. I will say, no one has ever described breasts more horribly consistently than Stephen King. Like, he'll be like describing a scene and it'll be like, and her breast felt like a balloon full of sand that had been stepped on by a clown smoking a cigar while thinking of his mother's taint. But and you're like, what the fuck just happened?
Listen, I think that's sort of perfect though, because I think so much of Stephen King's brilliance is because so many of his characters, the crux of what they're going through was in that like preteen, teen lifetime, right? Like so many of them, that's where the trauma is.
Very poorly.
He's a 14-year-old boy in his heart, you know, like and he sort of always approaches sex from a 14-year-old boy's perspective.
Yes. 100%.
All right, let's get to this episode, Midnight Mass, Book 7, Revelation. We've got quite a lot to talk about, but some great feedback too. First and foremost, excellent. I want to get to this. This is Jay Romanello. I was the one on Threads that you mentioned at the end of this episode. She commented on, or they commented on episode 5. I had mentioned that I was proselytizing Midnight Mass on Threads. And they said, I'm happy to report I made it through the entire series. Everyone who commented on my Threads post was right. There was a catharsis by the end. Yes. Also, I'm immensely... This person had said that they had a lot of religious trauma, and they dug Mike Flan-Again. They thought Midnight Mass looked interesting, but like, I don't know if I can handle so many sermons or whatnot, you know? Is there a payoff at the end? I was like, yes, there's a payoff. They also said, I'm immensely enjoying listening to the two of you rehash each episode and validate my hatred for Bev Keane. Thank you, Jay Romanello.
If I'm the only person alive on this planet, there will be a person alive that hates Bev Keane.
I think I've referenced South Park already in this show, but one of my favorite things from South Park was Cartman getting caught. I think this is in the movie. He's singing about Kyle's mom. Kyle's mom's a bitch. She's a big fat bitch. She's the meanest bitch in the whole wide world. Bev Keene's a bitch. She's a big fat bitch. She's the meanest bitch in the whole wide world. She's
on Monday she's a bitch. On Tuesday she's a bitch. She's a bitch to all the boys and girls.
That's Bev Keane, y'all. She is a mess. Shit, she's right behind me, isn't she?
Oh my God. Oh my God, this bitch. Oh, that scene. We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. Okay. Oh, Lenora Grace says, I don't know if this is true in every church, but there is sometimes midnight mass at Easter. My daughter and I both were baptized at our Catholic church at Easter midnight mass. And I was
Excellent.
wait a minute. First of all, here's how little I know about Catholics, honestly. And I thought I know all this. We've been talking all this stuff for weeks. I said in my head, I'm like, Catholics don't baptize as adults, though, right? Well, how were you and your daughter both baptized? Now,
But if
I
you
read
join
it again,
later, yeah, if you convert.
she doesn't say, yes, exactly. If you convert, you can be baptized at any time. You have to be baptized to join the church and to be saved, though. That's the idea. That's the way they teach it. So I looked this up. Yes, Easter Vigil, it's generally called, not actually an Easter Mass. It's also known as Paschal Vigil. I think that's Paschal Vigil. Holy Saturday. The Easter Vigil is a Christian liturgy that takes place between sunset on Holy Saturday and sunrise on Easter Day. It's the first official celebration of Jesus' resurrection and is considered the most important Eucharistic celebration of the year. The Easter Vigil is often held at midnight, but it's not exactly a midnight mass. Instead, it's a true vigil where the church keeps watch throughout the night. Blessing and lighting the Paschal candle. The priest cuts a cross into the candle, adds the Greek letters Alpha and Omega and the current year's numerals. The priest then lights the candle and says, "May the light of Christ rising in glory dispel the darkness of our hearts and minds."
Well, that sounds a lot better than what happened to the good people of
Quite a lot better, I would say.
of the island.
Quite a lot better.
Jesus Christ. That doesn't sound like you end up with the bloody open doors of a church mawing at you at the end of the fucking midnight vigil.
So the Easter Vigil is the longest liturgy of the year and has roots that go back to the apostolic generation. In the early centuries of the church, the Easter Vigil lasted all night until dawn. I thought the way they were describing it there, it does last until dawn. Apparently it doesn't generally these days. But anyway, Lenora, thank you for correcting us on that.
Always and forever, please, thank you. Correct us when we are
Right?
talking out of our asses, because we don't know.
Okay, and then you and I had a discussion in the last episode about whether or not the vampire is speaking to anyone, whether does the vampire have agency, real agent, manipulative agency.
Right.
So Dani Canone commented, and first of all, they had a few things to say. He says, the posthumous troll letter delivered via dad, posthumous murder attempt, maybe, was definitely the highlight. I'm strictly with Ashley that this isn't a Renfield situation, since Renfield was indeed picked and used by Dracula. It's who is in the driver's seat for the whole operation, and in Dracula's case, this is a literal Depeche Mode voice, master and servant situation, where here I can make a case that it's bestiality adjacent, as in we cannot, without reasonable doubt, assess consent on the angel's side. And so I said, that's really interesting. I said, you really don't think the angel is telepathically talking to these people, especially Pruitt? And Dani replied, I mean, I find it hard to take anything in this serious. Dani is suffering along with us.
Right.
Because he's not that big a fan of the monologues from
well, yeah, and that's hard to
Flan-Again.
This one has
a lot of them. It's
too,
true.
yeah.
It's true. But he says my read would be that the creature does not communicate to Pruitt. As you mentioned yourself, he's acting out of cowardice, and from the jump, he has this elaborate self-deception, selling himself on all of this being God's will, et cetera, et cetera. The creature just goes along with it. There might be a point to be made that there is like an instinctual bond between it and its thralls through the communion, but I don't think there is any conscious dialogue, and even that is questionable, as there is really no interaction between the creature and anyone besides Pruitt. And that, I hadn't thought about that, but he makes a super good point there. The angel doesn't actually interact with anybody else. Like
not until he's
even
eating
when he's coming down the aisle, like he's just playing the role.
Yeah.
And I mean, like in this idea, it also makes me wonder, like, I mean, did they take the angel over there to the church in the middle of the night and like practice this before the day?
Have a quick walkthrough. Yeah, I do think part of it's like a prey drive too. Like I sort of get the impression that this vampire, because I ain't calling it a fucking angel, has been in this cave for a hot fucking minute, kind of waiting for someone to come along and so we can have a bite. Like maybe he's been in kind of a sleep, like our vampires can kind of go underground. Maybe he's been sort of in a stasis state, or maybe he's not maybe they don't have to feed as constantly. but he sees this as an opportunity to start getting back on track with his meal plan, as it were. So he's like, oh, this guy could take me to more food. Bet, let's roll. So
where the Sizzler is? Okay. So I love the episode, and first of all, I had forgotten it. Last episode ended, Mildred shot the priest, and then the angel grabs her, the vampire grabs her and drags her into the sky. And in my head, it was like, oh, well, that's the end of Mildred. I had forgotten about her ending here. So she wakes up. First of all, she wakes up even younger than she was before. Like, she had gray in her hair still, no gray now. She's like a schoolgirl here. She looks so young.
Yeah,
fit as a fiddle.
She looks like she's been bathing in the blood of virgins.
Very vampy, though, this time, suddenly. She can see the glowing everything, she's got...
I love that effect. I love the vampire vision effect. I really, really do. But we're also going to see, like, in the turning of a couple of other of our characters, that prey drive does not necessarily have to be the number one thing about you being a vampire.
That's right.
Looking at you, Mayor.
Everybody has the hunger. Everybody feels the pangs, but it's how you respond to it is your own thing. I feel like they're going to have to reconsecrate this church, probably. Ashley,
he's going to need a paint job. For damn sure, that's going to need a paint job.
The power of Christ compels you.
I mean,
the power
for
of Christ
real.
Compels you.
And I mean, this scene's incredible too, because this is where he's just like, I fucked up so bad.
Yeah.
I fucked this all up so bad. Can you believe how much I fucked this up? So I fucked it up bad.
I do think, and there's like it's slowly dawning on him here, but he so overestimated these human beings.
Oh,
right. Like their ability to contain it.
To him and follow his instructions, like he did not want the doors to be open. That was not his intention, like Bev went.
He didn't want him to lock him in. He didn't want him to lock him in before they had the choice either. I think that was not.
Christ. All of it was. This evening got off the rails pretty quick for our guy here. It's like when you have a party and someone you didn't invite shows up, and then the whole night just kind of goes skidding off into the ether in a way you did not expect or intend.
Yes, very much so. You already mentioned Wade, but like Wade's already killed at least 2 people that we saw in the last episode, and he is still not full.
Like, and he's like having a good time about it. He's just like, I'm in the moonlight eating people.
I mean, it kind of feels like Wade's been wanting to fuck around for a few years, and he's like, let me out the box.
Wade's got some inner demons that he's been really shoving in down deep, and they're just coming out now.
Interesting to me, these vampires don't need an invitation.
No.
One of my
no, they do not.
One of my favorite things about the Salem's Lot story is cut short in the new 2024 adaptation. We'll talk more about that next week.
Among many things cut short.
Oh man, it's so much. But the Larry Crockett's the real estate agent, and in the book, it's a whole thing in the beginning. He invites the vampires into town. They have to. They never buy their way into a town. They have to be invited in, and it's part of the lore. Yeah. I love that idea of vampirism, and to me, when you have a vampirism that is so monstrous, so straight out monstrous like this, I feel like the barriers like that of like, oh, they have to be invited in, et cetera, that's like a good trade-off.
Yeah, they're truly monstrous. With these vampires, there is no garlic, there is no crucifix, there is no nothing. And I truly do, like, after really watching this watch through, I really do truly believe the vampires do not exist. They do not have Dracula to read in this world.
No, I don't think they do.
Because they are so fucking, like, to be calling it a contagion. Like, it's like, what the fuck are you... No, they're vampires. Like,
so I can't remember now.
They're vampires.
Somebody did mention,
at least.
Well, okay. That I wondered why they never even got there. At least, or I think they do call them undead at some point, maybe. But Sarah mentions when she's explaining it to Mom and to Aaron, and they're all talking about it, like the powwow. And then later, when she referenced later, I think when the sheriff is with their group in this episode, I think she mentions something like it again. She references the source of those myths or something like that.
Oh yeah, she does.
So my thought is there probably are, like, again, think about a world in which they never made the Dracula movie, any of them, right? And so, like, they didn't make Blackula, they didn't make Once Bitten, they didn't make, probably never wrote Interview with a Vampire because that was inspired by the vampire literature that had come before, right?
Right.
So if all we ever got was some short stories and a bunch of Eastern European myths and then like a rash of people who dug up graves and staked people in the 1800s, it would be like an anecdote that you kind of talked about at school, and we might not know the word vampire. Whereas that still existed, but like it's not in the pop culture. That's got to be. You're right. It's got to be what has happened here
because my God, you guys.
Well, some of them would have tried to stab them in the heart in this episode, right? They didn't try that at all.
I will say this episode particularly has got some 30 Days of Night vibe to it for me.
Yes.
Which is such a fucking scary movie.
And
really
it's again
scary a vampire movie, just so scary
for people who come from 30 plus years now at this point of being in love with Lestat de Leoncourt, who is a prancing vampire. He's busy at the opera. He can't kill anybody tonight. This is different. It's nice to play in both of those. It's nice to go get scared by fanged people sometimes too.
It is because there's so much.
This shit's scary.
This shit is scary. There are, and I do like to take the time to kind of for us to talk about that style of vampire too, because it is like, I mean, like again, it sort of drills home the monstrous side of it that we kind of like when we're talking Anne's vampires. We really don't care so much, and we forgive them. But like
when they spend 500 pages talking about Botticelli, it's hard to think of them as monsters, right?
Monsters,
Ashley?
Right? They're very classy. They're classy vampires. They don't spill the blood, Joel.
Not a drop. Okay, I want to know. So they didn't sink the boats. We saw Sturge working on the boats, but they didn't sink anything.
So I'm guessing like he was probably removing some sort of like mechanical thing,
spark plugs out, basically the equivalent.
Yeah.
So, but my question though is, were you surprised by? I was surprised in that moment to realize that the plan was to spread. Yes.
I was not, because that is Bev. She is spreading the good word. She thinks she is a fucking disciple.
Okay, but that part of the plan goes back to when Monsignor Pruitt was still running the show. That's right. Like when they have the meeting and Bev and Dolly and Wade are there.
The whole fucking thing out.
Yes, like he tells them, "Hey, we're going to take the poison tonight, and everybody's going to turn, and it'll be great. No more death."
And Dolly's all,
blah blah blah. And so at that meeting, they're like, and at some point, Sturge, you're going to turn off the cell phone towers, and you got to go make sure that nobody leaves on the boats, and Wade, make sure the ferries don't come back, and blah, blah, blah. So, like, this was the plan all along. It's surprising to me that that was Monsignor Pruitt's plan. I felt, and again, this is me coming from a place where I've been very sympathetic with them in the past, less so now, but like, damn, man, you didn't think that was going to be like saving your little community is one thing, right?
Yeah. Well, and
that's
like,
still
especially
terrible.
If at the core of it is like you were trying to get this love of your life back and reunite yourself with this family that you always wanted to have. If that is the core issue, then why are you taking the boats off the island, sir?
Yes.
Like, why you gotta go next door and fuck with folks? This is the problem that I have with people coming to my house to talk to me about religion. You're driving up on a damn boat like a vampire. Go on, get it. Go on, get
it. Do you have a little time to talk about our Lord and Savior Nosferatu?
Lord.
All right. Here's this is such a great line. Mama Flynn gives everybody else a few minutes to get away, and she's going to go out and face Bev King
on this fucking episode. Mama Flynn has got big.
I think she had some regret for the way she had reacted last episode.
She should also 100% have a feeling of fucking culpability.
Yeah. Yeah. She'd been talking about what a saint Father Pruitt is for, Father John, Father Paul, whatever his name is.
Trying to get him to drink this poison wine. No, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good lesson in guilt. Guilting someone into doing shit they don't want to do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But she's on the righteous path now, and she's like, look, by the way, I love a mama that'll go out there and take the bullet. Like that.
Big Molly Weasley vibes right here. I was like, fuck J.K. Rowling, but I am going to say my gal had some real Mama Weasley vibes here. She was like, get those kids and go on get. Take those kids and get them out of here.
And and little brother Flynn was super. He's like, Mom, no. But she knew what needed to be done in that moment. Yeah. And the fact of the matter is that Hassan and Aaron could give them a little more. Yeah, and that's the other thing.
She's got shit to say to Bev, by the way.
Bev was going to listen to her in a way that she wouldn't have even given Aaron a moment to talk, I think, probably, right?
What did she say? I've got no quarrel with you.
Even better than that one to me is when she they throw the Molotov cocktail through and she goes, Aaron Green, I'd like to finish our discussion.
Oh my God. It's her. And also, how do these, what is she doing with a copy of the fucking, what is the anarchist cookbook or some shit? Because they know how to make a perfect Molotov cocktail.
Those are some fabulous Molotovs.
Molotovs.
Well, you got to imagine Sturge probably has a copy of the anarchist cookbook. Let's be honest. He's a guy.
A certain set of skills, yeah. He's probably got a certain set of skills.
I can make you a Molotov cocktail. It's not a problem.
Anything will burn. Anything will burn.
It's real good for that lighter fluid, actually. You just fill the whole bottle of lighter fluid and throw it right in there.
Throw it right in there.
So they do. They're burning down the house, and Mama Flynn comes out. And she's Annie Flynn, so amazing here. She says, Bev, you need to hear this. Your whole life, you've needed to hear this. You aren't a good person.
You aren't a good person. And God doesn't love you more than he loves anybody else.
Listen, so many people need that specific message. Not that you aren't a good person, although probably you're not as good a person as you think you are.
Yeah.
But they definitely need to hear that God doesn't love you more than he loves everybody else. I think that's the answer, Ashley, to the question you and I asked earlier, which was, how did she raise $1 billion and still might not win this election? It's because people need to hear that God doesn't love you more than he loves anybody else.
More than he loves anybody else. If that's the God, if that's really the God that you believe in, the God that you pretend to believe in, then you have to accept that he doesn't love you more than he loves anyone else. It's not like
if he did, it's a little g God, and you, sir, are a polytheist. You just didn't know it, turns out.
Yeah, well, and I think the other thing here is that I think Bev gets so, she's gotten herself so whipped up, especially when she and Pruitt have their falling out, where she's like, it's me. I'm the one. I'm the disciple. I'm the prophet. It's me. I thought it was him all along, but I'm really the righteous one. I'm the one that's going to lead the people to salvation. It's me. Crazy bitch.
Well, and what kills me the most, Ashley, is that she does have that. She's got that righteous whatever. Even when she went and hid, in the moment of the revival, she goes and hides in the closet and accidentally backwards got it by getting shot by Aaron.
Oh, so satisfying though. Fuck Bev Keane.
We're gonna get to the satisfying part for her, my friend.
And then so they're having this face off where Annie is reading her the riot act in the most sweet way possible.
Oh, she's so soft about it.
She's like, yeah, you're the fucking worst.
I think she genuinely means it for Bev's bet. I think there is a part of her who's like, boy, if I'd told Bev this 25 years ago,
maybe none of this would be different. Yeah.
Yep.
I
could have fixed Bev's whole life and saved all of us.
It sounds like if a lot of people had a lot of different conversations over the course of the time here on this precious island, that maybe none of this would have happened.
Just to post it. Just a post-it note in a couple of cases.
Yeah.
Okay. I love, though, that Bev's like, I don't have time for this. And she's like, oh, yeah?
No.
You got time for that?
Fucking
And they both
wild. Oh, yes.
even Bev's like,
the balls on this woman, though, to slit her own throat right there was just divine. Because Bev's like, is that for us? Come on. No, we're all past that now. She's like, no, it's not for you. Like,
No.
she knew what she was going to do. Ooh. And yeah, the longer they sat there with her, they were like, oh, you smell real nice. You got that
but
good,
it's
good.
so, well, that's what I'm like, again, like, it should have been when the Batwings came out, everybody should have just left the church. Here, Bev should realize, like, are we the baddies? As she's lapping up her friend's blood off of her fingers,
Am I the drama?
Yeah, you're the trauma, friend. Okay. The waterfall of life. I've got this note down. The waterfall of life, a deluge of death. Who said that? That's a good metaphor, but I can't remember now where that even came.
Was that Pruitt? Did Pruitt say that?
I think that is Pruitt.
Shit.
when Pruitt first wakes back up and Mildred's back in the church with him and they start talking. They have their scene together. Yes.
When he and Bev are kind of having their face off about how
No, I think it's before that because the next note.
Because he's saying that he was saying that to take away death basically from the equation of life.
So
that's the reason why he wants to take the
He
boat. 'Cause he wants to take away God's sorrow at death.
Yes, even here. That's right. That's what it was. Okay, so, and it is a beautiful like story that he tells there, but it shows how wrongheaded he was from the beginning.
You still brought a fucking vampire home with you, buddy. Like shit on a
I mean,
shingle.
it's like with Riley, the fact that he would lie to Riley to prop up his faith and think that he did the right thing. Like so much so, I'm going to pat myself up on the back about it 30 years later. Like, no, sir. Same thing here. He's like, God sees every sparrow fall and feels every death. And I saw that waterfall and I'm like, oh, this must be what it's like for God. Just a deluge of death, unending. But yeah, it's not about him. It's like, this all goes back to, it's not about God is what I'm saying. This all goes back to Pruitt's fear. Pruitt's own fear of mortality.
Fucking about God.
Yeah, it's rarely about God.
Psst.
God is often a prop for whatever it's really
God's
about.
a prop. No offense.
No, I think and that's not to say in all cases, right? Like surely there are people who find true faith.
We know what we're talking
but
about,
so
right?
many
We
people
understand what we're talking about in this particular scenario. We're
Yes.
talking about a situation where the faith is not all well placed.
Yes, yeah. Well, and inherently, this is like there's a legal term that's like fruit of the rotten tree or something like that.
Yeah,
That's what this is. This is you are developing a career in the church based on your fear of mortality,
Right.
and your
And then-
misunderstanding of your sister's death.
and then everything else is falling into place for what you have done to these people in this town has been fruit of the rotten bullshit.
Yeah, yes. Fruit of the rotten bullshit is a better legal term.
That's definitely ready for trial.
But you were absolutely right that it was that came from Pruitt because my next note is, if I'm honest, it was you and Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I did it. I didn't want you to die. And he breaks up there. Boy,
He's fantastic. He's so good.
Hamish is so good here. But also, I don't think I've mentioned this in the show. I do want to mention it here in case you haven't watched it. Amazon Prime has a new Batman. I think it's called Batman the Caped Crusader, but it's a Batman animated series set in like sort of the 40s, vaguely the 40s or 50s.
Oh,
it's like a
that's
period
fun.
piece. Yeah, it's sort of in the style of the old animated series from the 90s.
Yeah,
But Hamish Linklater voices Batman.
My goodness. Well, that sounds like a
apparently real
treat
good.
for all of us.
Yes, so we can go watch that and cheer for Hamish, not for Monsignor.
Yeah.
But what he's saying here, though, he's admitting it, and I love that because I this is why I've empathized with him in the past, I think. Specifically, the first time I watched this was right before my dad died. And Ashley, I would have dragged that vampire in a box back from the Middle East if I thought I could have given my father his life back.
Yeah.
And I could have given more than given my father his life back, because Dad wouldn't have wanted it, honestly. He would have been like Sarah, spitting it out. Nope, that's not what I want. It would have been for me. I want my father back,
Yeah.
So much, man. I posted.
That's the whole fuckery of it, isn't it?
Yes.
It's just that desperation for the things that we've lost or that we never got to have, that we really wanted to have. Like it is a heartbreaking thing. Like there's a great song from Waitress that is I would trade what I have right now to give my old self a chance at a different ending, And I mean, that is not how I feel about life in the least, but like that kind of like sadness and longing for something different. I mean, situationally, it could get you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm with you in general in my life. I am the sum of all my experiences.
There are things that I would be like, ooh, but if I could. I mean, my brother and I talk about all the time about how our dad would be a really interesting, awesome parent for adult children.
Right.
Wasn't a great parent but we would have a totally different relationship with him now. Could maybe have had some hard conversations about addiction and about
and you can imagine that
steps to heal that and to grow from that. Couldn't have that conversation
give him enough
with our
time.
kids.
Absolutely. But that's what I'm saying. Like, given more time, anything is possible, right?
Yeah.
He could have healed and found peace and happiness in his own right. That's, I feel about all the disagreements that Dad and I had, but like, give us 40 more years, we could have worked a bunch of stuff out, I think,
That's right.
Anyway, that's what Pruitt is asking for here. Yeah. That's what he wanted, to have a do-over, basically. And you can imagine how you could talk yourself into it.
The saddest thing in it is they're having this conversation and he's revealing all this to her, and how if she had just come to him, he would have left the church. He would have taken his collar off right then. And she said, I never would have done that. You know me, I never would have done that. I couldn't have done that to him. I couldn't have done that to me. I couldn't have done that to my daughter. Couldn't have done that to you. Like, knowing what the turmoil of losing his, like, what has driven him his entire life, which is this pursuit of religion and truth and faith and knowledge and understanding, and to throw it all away for her, like what that would feel like, and how she was just really like, I never would have come to you. Oh.
That was another moment, though, that stabbed me for Pruitt, like not being what I want him to be, because he's so passive about it. I would have done it if you would have asked me to. Why didn't you ever ask her to?
Do it, dude. Yeah. Why didn't you do it? You were the one with the shitty job that doesn't let you have lady friends.
But and Mildred is so clear about the whole thing. She says she grew up and we faded away, that's how it's supposed to work. That's how it's supposed to work. Life is beautiful because it doesn't last.
It is. When I hear my friends with young children, and please don't blast me for this.
No.
Like listeners with kids, and please don't think I'm being critical. It's hard for me to listen to people say time is a thief when they're talking about their kids just growing up some. And I'm like, no, time is a gift.
Yeah.
Time is a gift. God, time, the thief is death. The thief is the father whose child is stuck in time forever because they didn't get to grow. They didn't get to age. They didn't get to become, like time is not a thief. Death is.
Well, and we steal our own time in so many ways, right? And lie to ourselves about it. But
we do. We waste time. We waste so much fucking time, and not understanding what we really truly think is important. Like, what was important to me 10 years ago, not very important to me now. Some of it,
100%.
Some of it, like some of the things that still bothered me 10 years ago do not bother me the way that they did. And then other things bother me much more.
So much more. It's so
and
much.
I've got new things too,
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Like, Bev Keane is straight up calling audibles here. She's like, let's burn it all,
she's like,
actually.
Yeah, burn it all. It's fine. You dumb
burn it all.
twat. Let me just, like, what do you didn't have a fucking backup plan to save your life. And you know you've got people on that island that don't like you, that are not dead, because you didn't kill them.
She's so overconfident.
She fucking forgot. She got all drunk on fucking Annie's blood and was like, oh, Annie Flynn, you tasted so good. Let's burn the shit down.
We don't need no water. Let the motherfucker burn. Okay. Oh, okay. So Annie Flynn and Papa Flynn get together here finally. They have their reunion, which is really lovely.
It is really lovely.
He explains it so clearly. He's like, I felt it too. I'm starving too, but I didn't. Whatever this is.
This is my blood. This is my blood.
Don't change who you are. It don't change who you are. That's our answer right there. Like, I don't think this is a world in which, I don't think this kind of vampirism is a world in which, like, Riley, they couldn't have kept Riley as a pet in the shed, right? Like, and fed him a little bit. I don't think that would have worked. But,
like in Shaun of the Dead?
Yes, like in Shaun. That's exactly what I was thinking about. Like, you can't have a guy in the garden shed. But,
no.
But what he's saying here is they're going to go out on their own terms and they will be themselves when they go out. And like, genuinely, I think, like, if you believe in a hell, these two aren't getting punished. This happened to them. They didn't cause it to happen. They weren't part of it happening.
Yes. And you kind of see that as the rest of this episode plays out. You kind of see that they're at a peace with what has happened, with what's going to happen, with, and I think that, they have a gentler, peaceful ending than some do.
Okay. I love that Lisa and young Flynn are the ones that find the angel's hidey hole and burn that to the ground.
And there's just dead things all over the place. And you can see how it escalated. There's like a dead rat. And then there's a dead raccoon. And then there's a dead drug dealer named Bull. And then there's a woman he's currently eating.
Like, and that's the one we saw him pull out of the top of the house, I'm assuming. Like, we saw him at one point go into somebody's house through the window, and then he flies up into the air. My guess is that's the one.
And they're all like,
he took.
quit screaming. I'm like, let her scream, run faster.
Okay, so Bev comes back to the church and finds Father Pruitt or Monsignor Pruitt and Mildred, and then she says, Monsignor Pruitt, you are a more forgiving person than I, but then again, who am I to judge? But still,
and yet.
Still,
alas.
though, is what she said. Still, though. And she's like, who am I to judge? Still, though. I am going to judge. What a bitch.
Y'all,
what a bitch, man.
Once again, I do not prefer to call women bitches.
She is, though. Like, she is the definition of it. And she's horrific. And all kudos to that actress, by the way.
Oh, my God.
Because she is so good in the other projects.
Everyone that's worked with her is like, she is the nicest person on the planet. So for her to get to play this role and really, like,
dig into it.
Just, like, heinous.
I mean, there aren't that many, like, you don't get to play Governor Tarkin that often, right? But, like, this is the woman who'd be like, well, Alderaan is too remote a system to cause the needed, but we'll blow it up now. And it would screw you, man.
Yeah.
She is so terrible. So terrible. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and so this is when she confronts the priest, because he's like, no, we were wrong. I like the way he says, I was wrong. We were wrong. We are wrong.
Yeah.
Got to stop it now. And she's like,
if we continue this, we will continue to be wrong.
Oh, do we? We're going to stop it? I don't think so, actually. Well, no. I suppose it isn't you anymore. Do not call anyone on earth father. You have one father, and he is in heaven. She goes to quoting scripture at him. You were always going to be the last, the hardest test of my faith. You. And it's a perfect echo to earlier in the season when she says, you don't have to apologize to me. Not you. Not to me. Yeah. His
writing is so intentional.
She was riding that Monsignor Pruitt train, and she's off of it now, and there's no room on the Bev train.
For probably like fucking 30 years at this point.
Yes. She's been running the town through the office of the church for a long time. Monsignor Pruitt's been sick for a decade or more, at least. It's such a... She turns on him so quickly here. It's crazy.
And with the same kind of venom she uses with everyone else in town. Like, it's not like,
like
she's
he's
being
just
like,
another piece of trash.
Like, yeah, like, now I'm done with you. It's like, once she's made her decision about your worth as a human, or as your value to her, once she's decided that, she's done.
Oh, okay. There's a great moment here. Howard Hobbs walks up, and Bev says, "Who's that now? Howard? Howard Hobbs?" And he says, I killed my Julie tonight, and my boys. I killed my boys." This is the thing, though, that blew my mind, and it reminded me of like things in my own life. Sturge has a greater forgiveness than Bev does. Bev's like, "Oh, you weren't part of the plan," and Sturge says, "Oh, but I saved him, Bev. He was always nice to me."
Yeah.
Sturge's grace is large enough for the island in many ways, right? And Bev's is so narrowly defined. This exact thing started happening to me when I was 12. I started doing summer theater, community theater in junior high and high school, and I was exposed to a lot of people of same-sex attraction, gays and lesbians. And in my upbringing, those people were inherently evil and were basically damned for their choices. And it was absolutely a choice. That's what I'd been told. But like, I met them and got to know them. These weren't damnable people. These were wonderful people. These were giving and kind and gracious and often religious and faithful people, and et cetera, and et cetera, et cetera.
And inclusive, people that want to make you feel like you're involved and a part of.
And immediately I was like, is my grace bigger than God's?
Ooh.
Am I more forgiving than God is? Because that's messed up, man. I don't know how that works.
Ooh,
and
that
began at 12 or 13. That began my deconstruction. And I had a lot of different, rounds at organized Christianity. But that's the crux of it, is this moment right here. Sturge goes, "But he was always so nice to me."
Yeah.
He's not a schmuck. He's never screwed anybody. When the beers were left out in the cooler, he'd never take an extra one. He never stole any money out of the cash register when I left the general store open for a while. He came over and helped take care of my cat that time when my wife was sick.
He didn't go to church, but he was cool as fuck.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so it's that imagery of like Pruitt says, "Oh, the doors stay open because the gates must always stay open." That is the imagery that appeals to me. And every time you tell me your version of Christianity isn't that, and it's narrow is the way and straight the gate or whatever, like I don't know, man. I don't
see the appeal of that. I don't see the appeal of finding your soul's comfort in that type of.
I think it goes back to what we were saying earlier.
Unless it makes you feel special because it's exclusive.
That people like to be like they like to be liked better by the bosses than everybody else, right? So if I can other a large enough group, then I will feel special. But it's like that ain't the way, man. That ain't the way.
It's literally the opposite of the way.
Okay, where were we? Sarah meets her father for the last time. Yeah. It's a really beautiful scene between the two of them.
It is.
Almost no words.
Yeah.
He's got like three. He's like, "Oh, but good."
And he's like, Great. And he tells her he's proud of her.
"I'm so proud of you."
Yeah. He tells her how to get out.
Proud of you, your mother and I.
She was like, "Yeah, that was the plan."
Yeah, I know, right? He gives her some advice.
He's like, "Hey, you can go this way and sneak out the vestibule." She's like, "Yeah, duh, motherfucker. That's what I was gonna do. I'm a fucking
coming
doctor.
out to fight all the vampires."
Like, you think I'm just gonna go out the fucking front door when I'm lighting it on fire at the front door? No, bro. Going out the back.
Oh man.
Thanks for your counsel, father.
I love that they get to meet, though, and I love that she gets to understand it.
Look, listen, and I'm really harsh on Father Pruitt, this Monsignor Pruitt, this watch, but I have been fooled by him numerous times in my viewings of this show, so I have a lot of like pity and sympathy for him, but not as much this viewing for some reason.
Ashley,
maybe it's because I'm tired of like religious men telling everyone how they need to live their lives.
That's it.
That's
it.
Maybe real world has snuck into my fake world.
We have talked about this scandal before on this show, actually, but when you and I were children, there was a little thing called the Monica Lewinsky scandal.
Oh,
and
yes.
President Bill Clinton got us some trouble because he had an inappropriate relationship with a staffer, Monica Lewinsky. If you don't know that,
He did not have sexual relations with that woman, but he did. But he did.
That line is exactly what I wanted to talk about, too. Literally, that night, I'm fairly certain that was not a nighttime like press conference. I think it was like in a deposition during the day, and then it was on all the TV news at night,
it was
right?
During like a Senate thing.
Yeah. So I came home that night from school, though, and I'm talking about this whole thing with my mom. And you were talking about the day in general, but that obviously is the news of the day. And so we were discussing it. And she told me, she said, Joel, I think he's going to end up being thrown out of office. And I said, really? And she said, yes. Monica Lewinsky is going to turn full evidence, and she's going to present anything and everything that she's got, and it's going to be blown wide open. He's not going to survive this. And she was Republican, so she wasn't like rooting for Bill at the time.
Right.
But she was having this serious conversation with me, and I was like, why? What changed now? And she goes,
Well, it's like it was like a huge, it was
he
a big
called
political
her
event.
that
woman.
She said, Joel, I cannot explain to you the anger that it would cause in me for a man to refer to me not by my name like that. And she specifically used the example, my grandmother, God rest her soul, Grandma Sharpton, my dad's mom, would often, she would stay with us for like long periods of time, like 3 months at a time, and then she'd go stay with another daughter and then come stay with us and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, my grandma did that too.
In those times, she would so often refer to my mother as she, not by her name. She would be talking to my dad. Well, she made me lunch today, and it was she made me so much food, it was just too much. And then she came in there and said I didn't eat enough of it, so I had to drink one of them Ensures. And she sat there and watched me make me drink that Ensure, And not everything she said was complaining about my mother, but she very rarely used my mother's name.
But it's
and
when it's
it's the dismissal, right? And that's what Clinton had done in that moment. Now, I'm sure his handlers had told him to call her Miss Lewinsky or whatever would be to personalize it and like her and what woman? What woman did I do anything with? Of course I never.
Where's a woman? Under the desk.
My mom, and I don't know. I've never heard Monica say that was a moment where she decided to become more actively involved or whatever. And honestly, in the end, it didn't cost him his presidency. But I've always remembered that, and I've always tried to not refer to someone in that way, in that
it's dismissive.
Non-human, yes, exactly, dismissive way.
Yeah.
Bev fucking loses the whole island because she won't call Ali by his name. I mean, I'm not saying Ali would have given her the lighter, but he didn't give her the lighter because she called him boy.
Boy.
Fuck Bev Keane.
Fuck Bev Keane. I mean, well, and I do think he realized, it doesn't change who you are. Whatever this is, it doesn't change who you are. So at his core, he is who he was before he started going and hanging out at that church. He knows right from wrong. He is not as like drunk on the Kool-Aid, for lack of a better way of phrasing it, as everyone else is in this scenario, because he's dead, he's come back, but he's also seeing these horrible acts around him, and he sees Bev with a gun on his father, and she shoots his ass.
Yeah. And it's but even it proves the lie to Bev's whole thing. It was like, oh, I'm so accepting. I love everybody. All you got to do is just come in here and love Jesus like I do.
It's so sweet. He's
Ali was
Isn't
at
it wonderful?
Mm-hmm. He was there. He was taking the communion.
Communion that he didn't die.
Trying to convert his father. And still, you don't even know his name. Like,
or even worse, you know his name and you choose not to use it.
No, that's what I'm saying. She literally could not call it to mind. That's my thing. She's like, that's the brown boy. I don't know whatever he is. And it's not, and he's beneath me. I don't even need to think about, of course, boy, you're going to give me the lighter, right? Like, burn it all the fuck down, which I love. And I hate that it's coming from Wade, because I'm on the train of fuck Wade too.
Yeah, fuck Wade.
But Wade tells her, no, Bev, there's no one else.
Yeah.
You burned it. You burned it all.
It's fuck. We're fucked, Bev. We're fucked. We did it bad. We were really screwed. We did not plan this properly. We did not have a plan B.
No. Well, and again, that just goes to show you, like, don't call audibles. Like, I don't know what Pruitt's plan was exactly, but it wasn't to burn the whole fucking island down.
No.
No, well,
loony
bin.
I know that they were not expecting the boats to get burned. They were expecting the boats to still be there. So
that's true too.
But I mean, also you have 3 people you pissed off and tried to murder running around the island that hate you. Don't you think they're going to try to fucking sabotage you a little bit? Aren't they going to fuck with your shit a wee bit? I think so.
I love that the reconciliation, the denouement begins with Sturge seeking confession. He finds the altar boy, and he gets Howie, and really they go off together. It's very sweet. The guy says, I think I killed my mom. The boy says, I think I killed my mom. And he goes, I did a lot of stuff. I did a lot of stuff tonight. I forgive you. Do you forgive me? But here's the thing. There's no magic in the collar, y'all. I don't mean to belittle the Catholic faith. If you find solace in that organized body, then good for you. But you ask your Catholic priest, in an emergency, you and I are both dying in the foxhole. I can take your confession and you can take mine. And this, I think, is a beautiful example of that. It's community, right?
Yeah.
It's just people agreeing together to seek one another's good. And even after the terrible things they've done, these 3 people are going off to seek that solace together as dawn comes. And I think it's a really lovely moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is where everyone's gonna choose their own ending, you know? We didn't talk about it. We kind of briefly kind of glanced off of it, but when Sarah is dying after she's shot, and Pruitt tries to give her the blood, she spits it out. And I love that. I love that move. I love that character. It made me love that character 10 times as much as I loved her before. Like, I loved that choice.
This is not the same thing, obviously, but I understand the complexities of it, and I understand that it would need regulation, et cetera, et cetera. But this is an example. I believe in euthanasia. I believe in a right to euthanasia. And
I do too.
I think in certain circumstances, when the end is clear, you ought to be able to claim that end on your own terms in whatever way that you need to. And I think that's what Sarah's doing here. Like, she knows, first of all, it's not
They all know they're going to die.
That's the other thing. I was like, it's not an out, guys. The island's burning down, and you're all going to meet the dawn.
20 minutes or now. What do you want, you know? And she's choosing to maintain her humanity. And
maintain herself. Exactly.
Yeah. And I love that choice. Autonomy. I just love it, love it, love it. She knows there's no escape. But I think every one of those adults sitting those kids into that boat, getting them off the island, Aaron, all of them, they know they're not long for this world. You know,
that's why they sent the kids, right? Nobody they didn't stay together and go with the kids. No. That just means somebody's going to come after me, probably.
Absolutely.
Okay. We haven't talked about Aaron, really. So Aaron gets attacked by the angel. And you're like, oh no. But she has, even in that moment, and again, it shows you the juxtaposition. Like, when the shit hits the fan, are you a good person? Are you a panicked person? Can you affect change even from down circumstances?
Are you engaging your free will?
Yes.
Do you have free fucking will? You know, do you? This moment, like, this whole Aaron's entire death is just perfection to me. It is beautifully done. I fucking love. So she's attacked. She gets that knife out and she starts hacking in.
Just carves holes in those bat wings.
Into those bat wings. Just a lot of holes in your kite, sir. I don't know if your kite's going to fly as well as it used to. Yeah. And it is, like, I'll never forget the first time I watched that. Because I was just like, oh, fuck, Aaron. Oh, no, not Aaron. I was really hoping she might make it.
Yes.
I was really, and then she started doing that, and I was like, yes, fucking yes, Aaron. That's right, Aaron. You know, like, and I was so, like, cheering for her to make that happen. And she doesn't know by the end of it whether or not what she did mattered. But she at least tried.
It's sort of open to interpretation. Everybody that's alive thinks he couldn't have made it off the island, but who knows, you know?
But who knows?
And that's the way life is, Ashley. We do the best we can with the circumstances and opportunities that we have, and then we just got to cross our fingers and rub our
and vote on
lucky
November
rabbits.
5th.
And vote on November 5th. Folks, yes, do that too. But that's
Just
we
slipping that
don't
in
know.
there.
We don't know how it turns out. We
don't know,
just
and-
got to do what we can in our little corner of the world. And that's what
And
Erin does. She
she
carves up
really
those
goes
fucking
for it.
wings, man.
Yes, she does. And it's great. And the sound is great. And he realizes what she's doing at one point and is like, exactly.
He's got
and
this
she
great-
grabs his head and puts it back into her fucking neck.
It's a fucking hero, man. That is. We talked about how Riley is set up to be the traditional hero of the show.
Exactly,
You know?
but-
and then bam, you take him out in
Boom.
episode 5. So it's like, what is this show about?
Yeah.
I thought before Erin's attacked, my thought was, okay, the denouement of this thing will be Erin pregnant.
Yeah.
And how did that happen exactly? I hadn't decided that for. I was like, why would she wouldn't have Riley's baby, right? I don't know, maybe.
But that would be a really comforting thing to have happened at
That's
the end
what
of
I
all
was
of
like,
this.
oh, she
Good
gets her
ending.
life back, right?
Yeah.
No, that's not going to happen for us either. But again, it's like that's not what show this is. This is not a happy ending show.
And that's not her story.
This is a realist optimist show, you know. But she does do a damn good job on the vampire, and so by the
Yeah,
time
she
he
does.
takes off, he's wobbly as shit, and
Yeah.
we're like, I don't know if he's going to make it or not. And
No.
our 2 kids out in the bay get a look at him as he flies away.
Yeah. And they're like, ooh, he's flying west, trying to get away from the sunrise.
I love that idea, by the way, racing the sun. This is something that we see
Yes,
Anne's
that.
vampires do. Yes,
I
they
was like,
literally
our
will fly
vampires do
around.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and if you had the
Lestat's
power of
usually
flight,
doing it to impress someone.
yeah,
He's trying
yeah,
to
right.
impress a boy,
There's
usually.
a great party in Paris we could make if we go now. But if you had the ability to fly, why wouldn't you do a 36-hour day once in a while, you know, or a 36-hour night in this case?
Well, I can tell you why I wouldn't, because now I'm in my mid-40s.
Be like, my fucking wings are tired, Joel.
I'm so tired. I'll need like a week and a half to recover from my 36-hour adventure.
Oh, man. Okay.
I'd do it, though. I'd still do it, but I'd be sorry later.
So as Erin starts to fade away, she hears Riley. What happens when we die? And suddenly they're back on the couch. I love that when she turns to the left. Flan-Again does this
"What?"
a lot. The quick cuts to a person who's not really there. He does it a lot as jump scares in some of his shows.
Oh, man,
he does
yeah.
it sometimes like this, though, in a comforting way, I think, too.
Yeah.
He's already done it here a couple of times with the cut from Riley when he says goodbye, and then he cuts to the dawn with the girl in front of him reaching out her hand, you know, in the boat.
Yeah.
But it's a lovely cut here, and we're back on the sofa, and now Erin's got to tell us, because the last time she told us what death was like for her,
It was
her
for
daughter.
her daughter.
What's death like
me?
for me?
For me.
For me, yeah. She says
And then
that
she's just-
word, self. That's not the word. That isn't. I love that sentence so much. She
Her delivery of
explains,
this monologue is
Yes.
so perfect. And it's
Yeah.
like that true understanding of exactly what words the writer / director / your husband, that is one of your artistic partners, what they
wonder
want
how
to
much-
tell.
You wonder how much she might have input on some of this too, right? Like I
Oh my
imagine
God.
they probably workshop this at night, right?
Well, they're working together now. She just directed one of the pieces of the anthology of the new VHS series, VHS Beyond.
I didn't know that.
And he totally wrote the episode, the section she directed.
Nice.
Fantastic, by the by. But yeah, no. So like, I work with my husband artistically, and we have so much, just so much instinct, so much group mind of having worked together for literally over 20 years. He and I have been working together.
Yeah.
And so I do, when he's directing me, I do know kind of like how his mind works and like what he might be thinking about or what he might be wanting, and it gives you a shorthand that's a little bit of a cheat and can sometimes really get you an amazing performance.
It's
And
an
I think
unfair advantage. It's not a
it
cheat.
is. He definitely uses his number 1 gorgeous, number 2 talented, number 3 amazing wife to his advantage.
That's exactly the way that it should be.
Yes.
I think I said this already, but I think this is probably my idea of heaven, the oneness, the return to the idea of a dissolution of self almost.
Yes. And it's a remembering what that's like to be a part of the everything of it, and the forgetting of what you were before. And she's like, the way she describes it, it's like reincarnation's real, because it's like, oh, I forget that every time. I forget that every time.
This body is mostly just empty space, and solid matter is just energy vibrating very slowly, and there is no me. There never was. I remember I am energy, not self. Yes, friend, there is no such thing as destruction of energy. There is transfer of energy.
Yeah.
You know, that is the immutable laws of the universe.
It's my biggest comfort. Like, I don't necessarily believe in a heaven, but I know that energy from the people that I love, from just the fucking output we put out for each other, that's there, and that's real. That's science. That's proven. That's real. And that is, to me, nothing could be more comforting to me than that we are all part of the same, and it's real.
Yeah, 100% real.
You know,
By the way, under her here, they're playing. So the theme that we get over and over again in the show is "Nearer, my God, to thee." That's not what we get here, though. She gets "Were you there when they crucified my Lord?" That's what's playing under her death here, which I think it's fitting because she sacrificed herself here at the end, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of she is not putting herself up on the cross like so many other of these fake martyrs in this show,
man.
But she did it for real. She says.
That's a really that's a good call out, Joel. I did not realize that.
But she says,
they're so smart, these guys doing the music.
She says, I'm returning. Just by remembering, I'm returning home. All things apart. All of us apart. We are the cosmos dreaming of itself. Lovely, lovely moment. Aaron's my favorite death in the whole show. Riley's is an impactful moment, and it's very memorable. But Aaron's death here is peaceful and meaningful in that she sacrificed for a reason, right? So
and we're
the whole
all
thing is good.
Star stuff.
Yes,
like that's
man.
so fucking beautiful.
But it's true. It's true.
Blue dot, that little blue dot. Oh.
I had forgotten until this watch that Mama Flynn's the one that starts singing. And honestly, she starts to calm Papa Flynn down. Papa is you can see it on his face. He's overwhelmed with the moment. They're all about to die and all this has gone away and he was wrong about his son and etc. And Mama Flynn just starts singing. And so they all sing then. "Nearer, my God, to thee" is what they sing out loud.
And it's lovely. And when it's just the two of them singing, I was like, oh, it's very... I love that Papa Flynn has got the skill set that even though he's nearing death and freaking the hell out, that he's still singing a little bit of harmony with Mama Annie Flynn.
In a small church, you got to take your role and you got to sing the right line.
You do. You got to do it.
Everybody on the island that wasn't a schmuck, except for Ali and Hassan, who are doing their own thing, and the Pruitts, who are doing their own thing. Everybody else is right here together singing and saying goodbye together. And again, it's that moment like Sturge seeking confession with his fellows. Mm-hmm. This is them coming, well, this is where we are. We're here at the end. Let's all be together at least. And let's have a moment of comfort as we say goodbye. Again, in their own way, they're doing what Sarah did. They're choosing their goodbye, right?
Yes. Yeah, and they're choosing to make it a peaceful journey. And they believe in their heaven.
Yeah, so they believe they'll wake up in a moment after.
Yeah, so they're going to go to that beautiful place that they've always dreamed of and hoped for. So they're safe and happy. So the reason why Bev is not with them, Bev is not okay with this way of ending things, you know?
And then we see Hassan and Ali. Hassan is almost gone now. He's bleeding out and is very near death. They're on the beach and they're praying. Ali's standing beside him and praying as well.
Yeah.
I love it.
I've never been so grateful for anything in my life that it's so crazy, but that Hassan died before he had to watch Ali burn.
I literally wrote, I said, Hassan passes before Ali starts to burn. That's so merciful.
I don't think I could have handled that.
But it is. I think that's like the theme being different under Aaron's death. I think that's on purpose.
It's a mercy.
Hassan and Ali did the right things. Right? They acted, as you said earlier, she took our communion in good faith. Hassan and Ali have acted in the proper motivations all along the way, honestly.
Right.
Like in this story, at least. And here they are spared from that horror of Hassan having to watch his son burn up to death before he dies.
After watching his wife die as horribly as she died, I just could not.
That's what I kept thinking about too.
I
yes.
just remember, and I remember, like, that was something when I watched this the first time, I was just ugly crying about, like, ugly crying about that, because I was so relieved for him. I just didn't want him to have to do that. I didn't want, like, that's how much I cared about that character at this point. I was just like, I don't want him to have to go through with that.
Well, I think Flan-Again felt the same way, though, too, because he very specifically shows Hassan falls over dead.
Yeah.
Like, we know that he's died, and still the sun hasn't come up.
And Ali is reaching over and touching him as he burns, you know?
Yes. Yeah, and there's no reaction to the burning hand on him. So, like, Hassan's gone already.
But what do we have over stage left of our guys, Joel?
Bev ends up on the beach, too. And Ashley is so beautiful because for, like, 5 seconds, I thought that Bev was going to have some grace herself and greet the sun, right? And, okay, I understand that we were the baddies, actually. Like, pray maybe. No, she holds it for just a second, and then she digs a hole. She tries to dig a hole. Oh, that coward.
Bev Keane, you're such a coward.
She's the worst, man. And unlike everybody else, we watch her die screaming.
Everyone else's death is so peaceful. You know, we've got Father Pruitt, we've got Sarah's dead Sarah,
Mildred and
Mildred,
Sarah, yeah.
And they're on this lovely little bridge in the marshes, you know, having their moment together, watching their last sunrise. Well,
and my favorite is the singing. We hear nearer, my God, and then it just stops.
And then there's
no screams.
Silence.
They sing until they are taken. And again, it's like, I think that's all very purposeful. The only one that dies screaming is Bev.
I agree. That is 100% a choice. And I appreciate that, Mike Flan-Again.
Bev sees them lakes of fire in her future. I feel like
she knows she hasn't lived right. She knows she killed that fucking dog too.
Right?
Bitch.
Okay, and then we see Lisa and Flynn. And Lisa's, they're watching, they see that it's just smoke, and they feel the ashes fall, and they know exactly what has happened. And Lisa turns to him and says, I can't feel my legs. And
they both look so relieved.
She giggles. I hadn't remembered it, but she giggles just a little bit. She laughs ever so slightly. And it's so perfect. It's sad. Obviously, right, that she's paralyzed again, and yet
it is. But she's been restored to herself.
To herself, exactly. She's escaped the change, and they both know it now. You know, the island underwent this change, but she and he are free,
and they're okay. They're going to be okay.
How in the hell?
They're going to need therapy.
So let's be very practical for a second. How in the hell are they going to explain any of this? Like, okay, so first of all, will they be able to figure out how to turn the cell tower back on or to call the fairies? Like,
look, listen,
how long before the fairies come back on their own?
I don't know, but there's plenty. Well, no, everything fucking burned. I'm sure there's still some shit somewhere on that island, but no, I think that they just leave because they could just leave. These people have been isolated for so long. These people, they come and go but they don't have connections on the mainland. Yeah. They're proud of their isolation. They're proud of just being this little like community. And so it's like losing a whole colony, Roanoke, you know, like nobody knows what happened. Who's going to miss them?
That's fair. I had forgotten about this, but we'll put it in here. Legend of Dex commented on YouTube. We had asked Ashley, what about recovering alcoholics and communion? First of all, you are allowed to skip the wine. You don't have to have a reason, and many skip it just because it's icky. Both the wafer and the wine are considered to be fully Christ, and therefore you get the full benefits from consuming either. Generally, you'll see people go up for the wafer and just politely walk past the chalice, generally at two separate stations. And then second, technically they never reference vampires directly in the show, but this time around I caught that when Dr. Gunning explains her theory of what's happening. Oh, here it is. We talked about this earlier. She mentions a blood disorder that is the origin of those myths, which I feel like has to be vampire myths. In real life, that's what the disorder is associated with. And based on the context of the scene, I can't imagine she's implying anything else. So I think they do exist, but maybe not at the forefront of pop culture, which is what we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And then number 3, she says, I'm not certain on all the details since I'm not Jewish, but I know there is an interpretation of the Isaac and Abraham story that God wasn't testing Abraham's loyalty. He was testing Abraham's moral compass, and Abraham had failed the test by taking Isaac up on the mountain to begin with. That's the interpretation, I believe, that I had heard in
the goat on the mountain.
A Protestant. Yes, we take the mountain looking for the goat, up on the mountain hoping for a goat or whatever. That
such a good title.
It was a perfect title. But that the idea was that the test was whether or not Abraham would go through with it, and he failed by being willing to go through with it. That's the idea anyway. Thank you for that feedback, Legend of Dex, and I think you're spot on there. That's not just a Jewish interpretation. I believe there are some Protestants and I'm sure some Catholics that interpret it that way too. I guarantee you that's what I heard it. That's how I heard it explained in that sermon once upon a time. But even then I was like, let's don't play chicken with our children's lives, maybe.
My God. Lord, no.
Ashley, genuinely, this is one of my favorite TV series of all time. It's one of my favorite, stories, period, I think.
Yeah,
I love
really
the
good.
Salem's Lot story. I mentioned earlier, I think this is the best adaptation of that, even though it's not really. But
I just was reading that someone referred to this as the best Stephen King story that Stephen King did not write.
That Stephen King didn't write. Yeah, it's like Salem's Lot is very my shit, and this is further in the direction of my shit from Salem's Lot. Even
takes it to the next level with all the the religious elements,
religious
the questioning of faith, and all of that. It just gives it a whole other layer, and also the isolation of all these people, which is also true with Salem's Lot a little bit. It's a very small town in the middle of God's nowhere, but still, you can get in a fucking car and drive. The isolation
100%.
just makes all these people. It makes all these relationships more intimate, and so the stakes are very, very high, pretty much from Jump Street here.
Yeah. God, I ate it up with a spoon. I'm so glad we did it. And I'm so excited that this is just the launching off point for us. So quickly, a little table setting here. If you're listening to this, if you've subscribed to the Flan-Again podcast, then awesome. You're going to get up next in a couple of weeks. You'll start getting episodes for Fall of the House of Usher. So stay tuned for that.
I'm so excited.
I will remind you, if you are listening as a Flan-Again podcast listener, to go check out The Articulate Coven, because next week we're going to do Salem's Lot, the 2024 adaptation, a movie night. And then we're going to go into our book club episodes of Blood and Gold by Anne Rice. It's the book that's all about the vampire Marius. We're going to do his story, and in between, we've got a lot of other movie nights set up. We're going to do Let the Right One In. We're going to do The Voyage of the Demeter. We're going to do Underworld. Excited. We're going to do From Dusk Till Dawn. So anyway, lots of fun stuff, even if you're not a big Anne Rice fan there on The Articulate Coven.
Right. There's plenty of goodies for everyone. It's a real grab bag out there.
If you are listening, though, to Articulate Coven, I cannot recommend enough that you go subscribe to Flan-Again, because that's the only place you're going to get the Fall of the House of Usher episodes. So all of that, by the way, you can get early and ad-free at our Patreon, articulatecoven.com/join. $2 or more a month, get you access to everything. So thanks, everybody who's joined there. Ashley, I am super excited about all these upcoming topics. We do have, and I mentioned it at the top, but I'll remind people here, Mayfair Witches is coming back for the Articulate Coven.
In January.
I literally, you and I recorded, and I said
disappointed about
they
it.
won't come back the first week of January, or they would have announced it already.
We were totally pumped. We were like, oh, cool, we're going to watch Blade.
I honestly thought we'd do another book. I thought we'd do another book before the show came back. I was that convinced.
I thought we might be able to get Lasher in, but no. Alas,
anyway, The good news, though, is, as we mentioned earlier, there's some good buzz about the first couple of episodes, so that's exciting. And, of course, also in 2025, we're going to get Talamasca, the first or the second spinoff, I guess, in the Immortal Universe world. And we don't know yet a date for Interview with the Vampire Season 3, probably in 2026, though, is my guess.
Yeah, probably. Early 2026. But maybe if we're very good boys and girls.
If we're very good.
If we're very good. Ladies, gentlemen, and ladies, we might see it at the end of this year.
We can cross our fingers and rub our lucky rabbit's foot.
Also, for Flan-Again fans, we've got Life of Chuck. We've got Carrie coming up. I mean, my God.
Yeah, lots of fun stuff there. And of course, I don't know about you, Ashley, but I'm thinking before that Carrie series comes out, I'm going to have to read Carrie. I don't know that I've ever actually read Carrie. I've read a lot of Stephen King.
So here's my thing. I'm like, how the fudge? I don't know why I'm saying fudge now. I've been saying fuck like 8,000 times this episode. I don't know. How are they going to make that 8 episodes? So I'm very interested because that is not a long novel. It's pretty short.
I haven't read the novel, but somebody in one of the comment sections that I was reading pointed out that there's a lot of stuff that's implied about like Carrie's family backstory.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking. We're probably going to get a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking is probably how they're going to stretch it. And I mean, like, I'm going to complain. Give me Mike Flan-Again doing 8 episodes of Stephen King, anything, and I'm like, okay.
Well, and I just immediately thought, like, man, we can really get to know all of the kids, right? Like a lot of the high schoolers, even the ones that are
that's true.
Antagonists for Carrie, can have fleshed out storylines.
Yeah. And
we can get to care about them or understand them or empathize, and then terrible things happen. Also, generally in the movie versions, the aftermath of Carrie's incident is a little downplayed and not as thorough as in the books. So he's got some places to go, I think, on both ends of what the movies generally do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm excited. That was a really, really thrilling announcement. It just made me really aware of, like, I hope he'll do like an anthology of Stephen King short stories because I am a fucking junkie for those short stories.
Well, and you and I talked once upon a time about Castle Rock on Hulu, which did 2 good seasons there. Yeah, it's a great show. And there have been, like this 2024 adaptation of Salem's Lot that we're going to talk about next week. Like, there's no shortage of Stephen King adaptations.
Right, we're getting a prequel to it. We're getting I
forgot about Welcome to Derry. Yeah. That's right. It's coming to Max. Yes. Yeah. Oh my God. I'd completely forgotten that was even in production, but that's coming like soon, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, it is a great time to be a fan of these types of projects.
The genre. God bless us.
Come along for the ride with us, folks. Stay subscribed to the things. Find us on YouTube. Subscribe to the Patreon if you are in a position to do so. We appreciate everyone who has.
Very, very much.
And we'll be back in both of these feeds with all sorts of goodies for you. Over on the YouTube, you can catch October 30th is the drop for our first episodes of reactions to Wolf Like Me from Peacock.
I'm so excited.
Kelly and I. Man, we just did episode 3 and 4 the other night.
I need to start watching that.
You totally should check it out. They're bite-sized episodes too. They're like 22 minutes long. Really, really digestible. The whole series is only, I think, like 13 or 14 episodes long to 2 seasons so far, so it's not that long. But we've really been enjoying it. The first 2 episodes drop on our YouTube on October 30th, and then those will be weekly on Wednesdays. Wednesdays for Wolf Like Me.
Wednesday.
And Flan-Again will drop from now on Fridays. So Follow the House of Usher will drop in the public feed on Fridays moving forward. Look out for that. All right, folks.
Coming, y'all.
We'll get on out of the way right now and say goodbye to you. We'll be back soon in all those different places. Until then, we've been your hosts. I am Joel.
I'm Ashley.
And we are the Articulate Coven. Thank you for watching Flan-Again, a Mike Flan-Again rewatch from the Articulate Coven. If you want our videos and audio early and ad-free, visit articulatecoven.com/join and join the Coven.